Thank you so much for your patience. We had just a couple technical difficulties to iron out before we started. This is our very first Facebook Live, and we are the Colorado End of Life Collaborative, and we are so happy that you joined us today. I'd like to first introduce the fabulous five here. Here to my left is Marissa, and she is our treasurer. And standing behind me is Cindy, she's our president. Vanessa, she is our second vice president. And Carrie, who is our treasurer, and I'm Valerie, and I'm the first vice president. So we just wanted to first tell you about who we are and why we came to this work. But before I do that, I would like to just let you know how we started. We are a nonprofit 501c6 organization, and we are led by all volunteers. All of us are volunteers here on the board of directors. And our mission is to promote end-of-life doula work and the end-of-life care providers in the community of end-of-life work. And so to do that, we like to start out with Marissa. But before I do that, I would like to encourage you to please submit some questions to us as we're going along. We're happy to answer any questions. And the first person that asks some questions about the collaborative will receive their very own autographed copy of The Mortal's Guide to Dying Well. Our very own Cindy has written this book. So please send your questions to us. And without further ado, I bring Marissa to talk about how she started the collaborative.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So we're about 8 months into 2020. And are you ready for it to be over yet? I know I am. 2020 is the year of seeing things more clearly. It's about things coming to light and seeing things with 2020 vision. I love numerology, and 2020 is the master number 22. It's all about change. And this year, it's a sort of reboot for the planet. You've probably noticed. It's about a change of consciousness and a new opportunity and a new energy for looking at things in a new way. And that's what our benevolent collaborative is all about, doing things in a new way, doing death differently, looking at it as part of the benevolent circle of life and being present with death. In 2016, when I was daydreaming about becoming a death doula and wondering what that might look like, I knew that I did not want to do this work alone. I was going to need a support system. I needed a team, a collective of doulas who wanted to be part of the death positive movement. After my training in 2018, I started a spiritual death doula support meetup so I could meet other doulas and see what they were doing. My goal was to find others who were looking to start a collective. Through a mutual friend, I soon met Vanessa. She was on the same journey that I was on, and she was raring to get started. We both agreed that we should start a death cafe so we could meet even more doulas. She introduced me to a friend of hers who was also a death doula who specialized in grief counseling, and not only did she want to help us host a death cafe, she had two very important things. She had a large space and a lot of chairs. Thanks to Vanessa and her friend, our once monthly death cafes were a huge success, and it wasn't long before we met Cindy. Apparently, Cindy and Vanessa had met during their doula training, but hadn't had any contact since. When Cindy declared that she was a doula seeking to start a collective, we knew we had to invite her into the circle. It was just a few months later that we manifested Valerie, and shortly thereafter, Carrie. The whole process of putting together this beautiful circle of five took a little over a year. We're now at the end of our second year, and after a lot of pre-COVID gatherings and lunch meetings, and months of Zoom meetings, here we are launching our gorgeous website, the Colorado End of Life Collaborative, and sharing our passion with you. When you have some time and feel like poking around the website, you can easily find each of us under the doula directory. You'll see that I do something a little different than the other doulas in this circle of five. I am a companion animal end-of-life doula. I provide in-home hospice support for senior pets and animals with chronic or terminal illness. I create a calm environment for the dying pet and their human companions. Animals have special needs at the end of life, and I think it's important to work as a team with the family and their vet. I also offer pet respite care so that the family can take time for themselves. I offer Reiki for pets and everyone in the family. Reiki is especially great for dying pets because it doesn't require touch. Many animals like less touch at the end of life, not just because of possible physical pain, but also because they're making their physical transition out of their body. I also offer holistic and spiritual support for the family of dying pets. Most pets are considered part of the family, and when a pet becomes ill, it can be devastating. There can often be tough decisions that have to be made, and being there to hold someone's hand when they're under a lot of stress can make the world of difference. So thanks for listening. Carrie, do we have any questions?
Actually, we don't have a question, but we would like to welcome Lisa Ann. She is in South Carolina, and she is watching.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Thumbs up. We're so happy to have her.
Awesome. And I'd like to introduce Vanessa.
Thank you, Marissa. I appreciate you explaining how we came together and explaining your unique gifts and talents that you bring as part of this collaborative. So I'm Vanessa. I am the second vice president in charge of membership. And the reason that I helped to co-found and join the Colorado End of Life Collaborative is because I believe a team approach is the best way to serve families and each other as end-of-life doulas. You know, most of you watching this, hopefully you know an end-of-life doula is a compassionate companion at the end of life. When I first started doing this work 3 years ago, my first client, I was sitting vigil, and you know, after several hours, it was time for me to leave and take care of my own family and myself, and I didn't like the fact that I didn't have anyone to kind of step in my place. And I realized that a team approach of other doulas would be most helpful for this family. And so, you know, ever since then, I really was looking for a way to have more doulas come that we could serve families who are experiencing the dying process. And the second reason that I'm part of this collaborative is because I want to support others doing this work. It's really important work, and I want to support that vision and create a community, not just for end-of-life doulas, but for anybody in this arena, so anybody helping with death and dying. And the reason I'm an end-of-life doula, you know, I feel called to this work. My previous career was as a high school English teacher, so for me it's always about stories. And each one of us on this planet has a unique story that we live out, and I'd like to honor those stories of each person that I work with. You know, I want to do what I can to bring more love and meaning to the dying process, which I know sounds counterintuitive to some people. You know, it's sort of riddled with fear and anxiety a lot of times, but we can bring more love and meaning to it, you know, by making decisions beforehand, if possible. And that's not to diminish the grief and loss that one might experience, but to kind of shift the focus a little bit from that loss to the life that's been lived. And so I want to help honor life's milestones. You know, as an end-of-life doula, we all have a lot in common with birth doulas, and birth doulas, you know, since the early 70s have been taking the experience of the birthing process and really honoring that for both, you know, mothers and babies. And I want to do the same thing at the other end of life, because it is a natural process that 100% of us will go through. So instead of not talking about it, let's talk about it and lift that up as a natural process and something to be honored. So the final thing that I really feel called to do as an end-of-life doula and as a companion at the end of life is to empower people. You know, we're not used to thinking of that, but I do believe empowerment at the end of life is possible. And so that looks different for every single person, but my job is to reflect that back to people and determine what it is that they want and that they need at the end of their life, and to help loved ones kind of experience the grief and process that in the healthiest way possible. So that is why I'm part of this collaborative, and I hope that you'll join us too. And that's a little bit about why I'm called to do the work that I do. So, before I introduce Cindy, do we have more questions?
No questions at this point, but Trish and Ben and Kareth are all joining us now. Hey guys.
Thanks for joining. I think the last time I was in this house, Kareth was here. So, hi. Okay, so next you will hear from Cindy.
Careful.
Hello again, everyone. And I just want to remind you, since we haven't seen any questions yet, the first person who posts a question in the comments asking something about the collaborative, something you'd like to know, will be receiving an autographed copy of my international best-selling book, The Mortal's Guide to Dying Well. It just came out in May. It's available on Amazon.com as a digital download, or a lovely, if you're like me, I love to read books that I can put my hands on, so you can get it as a
Excellent.
paperback.
Excellent book.
Woo-hoo.
Yay, 5 stars.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I think the reason I really wanted this collaborative, and when I thought about creating a foundation that could eventually become this collaborative, which we are now realizing our dream of, was because I realized very early on, I did my training in December of 2017, and I realized very early on how difficult it is to do this work by yourself. Not just because it's a lonely thing to do, but because there's a lot of education that needs to be done around end-of-life doulas, what we are and who we are and what we offer and how our services differ from hospice and other home health care type services at the end of life. Not many people have heard about us yet, and so it's hard to get out and educate on your own. It's hard to cover your whole community on your own, especially when you know there are other incredibly competent, capable, dedicated doulas out there who want the same thing that you want and who are doing the same work that you're doing. So coming together to help each other educate the community about what we do. And the other piece of it for me is the support that comes, I think anytime you're in business by yourself, no matter what it is, it becomes very lonely and isolating, especially when you have a business where you don't have an office. Your office is your car. You know, you drive around from client's house to client's house, and you're at home when you're not in a client's home, and it can become incredibly isolating. And this work is very emotional, and I don't think anybody who's in this work should be doing this work if they don't feel the emotions that come with the difficulty going through death and dying and helping a client. And we do become emotionally attached to our clients. You can't not do that because it's such a personal, sacred space to be in with people, and to be allowed to be in that space with people is an honor. And so when you lose a client, it's a loss. It's certainly not the same loss that the family and the friends feel, but it is a loss because you do build a relationship with that dying person and with their loved ones. And to have the support of other doulas to just talk about what you're going through, to help maybe with a difficult situation that you're dealing with your client. You know, not all families are functional, and sometimes we end up being sort of a mediator with dysfunctional families. We help in that regard with communication, and so to have other people that we can talk about a difficult situation that we're working through with a client and get ideas, maybe about a different way to do something that we haven't thought about, or you know, just that support that comes with a group. And then I didn't want to leave out affiliate members, which are people who offer other end-of-life services besides what we do, but in collaboration with us, and to bring together a group of professionals that we know and that we trust and that we feel comfortable telling our clients
you know, if you're needing this service, let me refer you to this organization or this company or this person can help you out with that, and this is a trusted person that I know. So I think that's really important as well, is to have that networking relationship. And how I came to this work was I started hospice volunteering when I was 29 years of age, after experiencing my grandmother's death and being at bedside with her when she died, which was a transformative experience for me in my life. And I realized I was comfortable being with death and dying. And I realized other people weren't. And so I felt like this was a skill or a gift that I was given, and I'm called to it. As many people will tell you who are end-of-life doulas, I'm called to this work. It is a calling for me. It is a passion for me. I really want to help people die well. I don't think that the only thing that surrounds death is grief and loss and misery and pain. I think there's a whole lot of beauty in it, and I want to help the dying person find that, and I want to help their loved ones who are going through that experience with them find that, the beauty and the sacredness of that transition. It is a transition out of life, just as birth doulas help with the transition into life. We help with the transition out of life. Very similar type settings. So that's why I do this work, and I know that it took me a long time to find that this was what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. But now that I'm here, I don't care to do anything else. And to be surrounded by such a dedicated group of end-of-life doulas and other affiliates is incredibly empowering to me and inspirational to me. So we look forward to growing our collaborative, and hope that you, if you are a doula in the Colorado area or have an affiliate service, that you will think about joining us.
We have a question.
We have
Lisa Ann asked a very good question.
Okay.
Where did y'all receive your training?
I love y'all. I'm a Florida girl, so I get y'all. Southern girl.
Georgia, Florida.
Georgia Southern?
Georgia Southern, Florida.
No, it is.
What did that?
North Central Florida is Southern. Can you hear the Southern accent? You get it back really quickly. It's back really quickly. Well, I'm fixing to tell you.
Good question.
It's a great question. So I did some research before I did my training, and because I personally had so many years of hospice volunteering experience, I didn't feel like I needed real in-depth, like I didn't have any background in death and dying whatsoever, which a lot of people come to this work not having that, but they feel called to it. Maybe they sat with a loved one or something. And so for me, I discovered the International End-of-Life Doula Association, INELDA, INELDA.org or .com is their website. They are out of New Jersey, but pre-pandemic, they would go around every month to a different state and host a training, and you could find one near you or maybe even in your city. I know in Denver, they would come once to twice a year. Now they're doing their trainings online, I think once every month. And I'm not as familiar with the online trainings, but I can tell you that the in-person trainings were a long weekend, like a 3-day weekend. And I personally flew to New Orleans and did my training there because I didn't want to wait for them to come back around to Denver. Once I discovered this is what I wanted to do, I wanted to do it. So I got my training done pretty quickly. There's also the Conscious Dying Institute, which is in Boulder, located here in Colorado, and I think all their courses are in person. Is that correct?
I don't know how they're doing it now, but when
Don't
I
know
was
how they're
there,
doing it now
it
with
was
the pandemic,
in person.
but before that it was in person. And
Yeah.
did you have people coming from other places to train?
It was varied. A lot of people came from out of state.
A lot of people came from out of state to come to Boulder to do that training.
Yeah.
So Conscious Dying Institute. Some of the others are Going with Grace. Alua Arthur is the owner of Going with Grace. And Doula Givers is another one. And I know they have a place in Florida and New York.
And then Deanna Cochran out of Texas. I
Deanna
believe that's
Cochran.
Quality of Life.
Yes, quality of life.
Quality of Life out of Texas. Any others anyone can think of?
UVM, University of
Oh,
Vermont.
University of Vermont has an
Yeah.
online certificate program that you could do, so you might look into that. So hopefully, Lisa, that was Lisa, right? Hopefully, Lisa, that answered your question about training.
Congratulations, Lisa.
And Lisa, if you will message us, just private message us in the group on Messenger your address, I will happily personally autograph this book and get the copy out to you. Thank you so much, Lisa. We appreciate your support and tuning in with us today. And now we are going to have Carrie.
Hey guys, I'm a coming. It's a rocking chair. I'm feeling old already. Everybody. So, my real start over, Carrie. I can do this. When I graduated from the Conscious-Stein Institute in Boulder, I was so fired up. I was so excited. And I just needed to do this work. And then I stepped out into the real world and I realized that a lot of people didn't even know that this work needed to be done, let alone how to find us. So I did what a lot of graduates do. We feel like, okay, we want to get launched, but how do you build a business? And especially, how do you build a business if there's nobody who knows what an end-of-life midwife is? My passion began to grow into wanting to get the word out. We can't be successful in taking care of our clients if they don't know that we exist. And one of the ways for them to know that we exist is that we have to start making connections with others who are working with this same group. So I really want to do a lot of education and outreach and education to the medical community. They're going to have clients that might truly benefit from our work at some point. I want us to be a present at conferences. And we have a beautiful table that we have been designing that was a boom over there. It was a cane going sideways. So we've designed a beautiful setup for conference presence. We've got beautiful rack cards that have been designed and printed, and business cards that have been designed and printed. And our members and affiliate members will have access to these, and we're hoping that they will hand them out to everybody. The business card has our logo on the front, and on the back it's
Blank.
It's blank, so that you can write in your own personal information about how they can contact you, your number, your email, your website, things like that. These are these are benefits of membership. I and some of the others. Oh goodness, I've got show and tell now.
Yeah.
Show and tell. Purdy. Yes. Several of us within this collaborative are very interested in going out and speaking. And we've already started doing that. I have been invited to speak at several of the universities and colleges. I think Cindy has been a speaker as well. And so has Vanessa. So we're offering those services, and members, you will be given the opportunity to do this as well. In fact, we invite you to be part of our Speakers Bureau. Now, so advocacy also. When I talk about wanting others to know what we do, what we supply, I'm thinking in part of hospices. I think all of us here, or most of us, have volunteered at hospices. And so we do have a passion for giving and in that way, but we aren't your normal volunteers. We're trained professionals, and I would really look forward to the time when hospices in our communities will see us as that, but I think we have to advocate for that kind of treatment where we can be brought on as part of a professional staff of those who are caretaking hospice patients and be treated the same way that other members of their medical team are being treated. Okay, how did I come into this? Let's make this about me. You know, I've always known that death and dying were scary, but I think that we did it better back when we were members of communities. We had generations, the older generations, who would model for us how death and dying should be done. And then we moved out into huge communities, and we no longer know how to do that. And I realized this because my husband and I had a friend who was dying. She was in the hospital. We went with another friend, 2 men, myself, into her hospital room. I made a right turn and beelined it to her bed. And I stood there and I touched her and I talked to her and I said, girlfriend, you're just not looking your best. Just want to tell you, but we love you and we're here. And I talked to her and then I said, okay, and I stepped away to make room for the men. And I realized that, well, I had come through the door and made a hard right to her bed. They had come in the door and made a hard right to their left. And they were in the farthest corner that they could be in this room. And I said to them, come over, come talk to her. And they were terrified. They didn't know how to be in the presence of somebody who was on the cusp of dying. And I think at that point I realized that I wanted to be part of a change in how we talk about death, and certainly a change in how we do death. And I wanted to be able to model this behavior so that others, like my husband, love you, honey, and friends, and that they would be able to say, oh, there's somebody who knows how to do it, and I get it now, and that they can hand down the skills as well. I'm talked up. I'm talked up. And I'm going to hand this over to Valerie.
Do you have questions?
Any questions?
Well, Lisa followed up and asked, where do you gather your referrals? Are you connected with your local hospice in any way?
We are connected because a lot of us volunteer, but I have not received a referral through hospice. Anybody here?
No.
There's a whole lot of heads going in this direction.
No, I think ideally we would be a supplement to hospice, but no, I haven't. Most of my referrals are word of mouth.
And I also look forward to the time when perhaps with enough advocacy and with enough of a presence, we could be covered through medical insurances. But we've got a lot of growing to do. And we here are all hoping that you're going to be part of that growth.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Valerie Nicholas. I'm the first vice president of our collaborative. I'd like to start out by telling you a story first, and it's going to kind of tie into why I'm doing what I'm doing. About 6 years ago, my mother was very active. She used to walk every day and had a very active lifestyle. She traveled and did all the things. 6 years ago, she went on a walk with a friend of hers up to Mother Cabrini, which is a place here in Colorado, on Good Friday, and was doing a short, probably 2.5 mile hike, which she didn't even tell me about it, which I probably wouldn't have even been too concerned because she was so active. Well, my mom set out, it was a warm day, it was probably 78 degrees that day, and she took her last breath on that Friday. 78 years old, active, I never even saw it coming. So the reprocessing after my mom passed, I realized I didn't get the stories written down, I didn't get her recorded, I I didn't pay attention as much as I wished I would have to write down anything, any of our family history. I mean, I have some of it that she told me, but I was literally left with nothing. So my sister and I just didn't have our mother after that Good Friday 6 years ago. At that time, I was studying my prerequisite classes to go back to school for nursing, and I was on my last semester, and I was just about ready to finish to go into nursing. But that put me in kind of a tailspin. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life at that point, and it didn't seem like nursing was it. So, back up a few years before that all happened, I had worked in a retirement community for almost 10 years, and I was very familiar with death as well. As Cindy said, I was very comfortable with it. I was that person that would go and sit vigil with our residents when they were passing. And I knew at that time too that there were other people that struggled with it, and I was pretty comfortable. So after my mom had passed, I decided I needed to do something else. So I took a few months to really ground myself and decide what I want to do with the rest of my life. I had been a volunteer hospice, I had been volunteering for hospice for probably 8 years at that time. I'm going on 15 years now. And I knew there was something about hospice that really drew me into that work. I especially knew, and it probably wasn't until my mom passed, that I would hear these stories from the patients. Oftentimes, one of my favorite stories was I went to go visit a patient, and his wife said, Bob is not going to talk at all. He doesn't talk. He's just going to sit here, so I hope he brought a book to read. And I was totally fine with that. Like, that's okay. I could read a book. As soon as they walked out the door, Bob was nonstop talking. He had so many stories. He was talking about how he met his wife, just so much rich history of their early courting, and it was just amazing. And he talked my ear off for the whole 3 hours that his wife was gone. And when she came back, he was dozing off, and she said, oh, looks like he hasn't moved position, or probably didn't talk at all while he's gone. And I said, well, actually, he told me a lot. And so she kind of wanted to know the things that he shared with me, and so I told her, and she just couldn't believe it, because a lot of those stories she had forgotten about.
Aww.
And so it was not only Bob's story, but there were other people that I had been visiting as a hospice volunteer, and I was privy to these stories. And sometimes, as family members, we might hear these stories so many times that they kind of go through one ear and out the other because we've heard them so often, and we didn't take the time to record them or create some kind of memory with those stories to remember our loved ones after they pass. So at that time, I was really searching for something along that line where how can I capture someone's story? How can I capture their legacy before they go? So it's not told through somebody else, but it's their story. So I found the Celebrant Institute, and I decided I think I want to learn how to do ceremony, because it was kind of something around ceremony that I was searching for. And so I became a life cycle celebrant, but I really wanted to become a memorial celebrant, a funeral celebrant. So that helped me with the ceremony part, but I still wanted something else. I was still searching, and it was probably a couple years after I finished my certification from the Celebrant Institute that I found Enelda. And Enelda, it really just tied everything together for me, how I could capture someone's story. So what I have done with my training is I create living funerals. So the guest of honor could be right here in this chair. All of their loved ones are around them. There could be ceremony to it. It could be light. It could be a celebration. And so they're there to tell their story. I officiate it, and their family is also there to hear their story and to also reciprocate and tell that person how much they've meant to them. And so that's how I've carved my way into being an end-of-life doula, is much like Vanessa was talking about. I love the stories, and so I create story out of it. More specifically, I create legacy for them. And it can look like a ceremony, or perhaps it can look more like a memory book, or perhaps it can look like something we're doing here today where we're just talking and it's being recorded. And so that's what I most enjoy about my work that I do. And I'm so excited to be part of this after I finished my training with Anelda and I met Cindy, because not everybody is comfortable with this. And it's such a shame to have people pass who have so many stories to tell and it doesn't get captured. So I was so excited to be part of this and pioneer this, because as a group and as this collective, we're going to go forward and we're going to tell people's stories, and we will make those connections, and we're going to make those referrals with people. It's just a matter of time. So as we get our members, each member that comes to us is going to have their own story and their special gift that they bring to this collective, and we're so excited for that, to see what you can bring and help us with this and telling our story and getting it out there. And for the future, getting out into the community, helping people with their own families. And we're really trying to think about and restructure what we're doing now with this COVID and how we can be supportive to families and caregivers during this time. So we welcome you to join us, and I'm going to introduce Cindy, as she's going to talk about how to join our collaborative, which is a collective.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Collaborative. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in with us today, and even if you're watching this after the fact, because it'll be a video that lives on our collaborative site, so I know we will have people who see this later on. And if you do, please comment, because we'll get those comments as well. And if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them. I would say that if you are a member of the community, keep in mind what our services are. If you don't need them, maybe you know someone who does. So you can always find us on our website, which is CEOLcollaborative.org, and it's listed here on this public group as well. And you can search for members, you can search the member directory and find specifically what services you or your loved one might need. If you are an end-of-life doula in Colorado and you would love to be a part of this collaborative, we'd love to have you. So again, go to our website and look for the membership page, and we have a page for the end-of-life doula members, as well as a page for affiliate members. So if you are a service other than end-of-life doula that you'd like to be a part of this collaborative, we'd love to have you. So you will find there on the doula membership page or the affiliate page application process. You can download your membership application and get that into us, and we'll be happy to review it. I will say that all of the members of this collaborative will be vetted. We are a professional organization, and we want to make sure that we have quality in the people that are members of this organization, and they are people that we are known and trusted to us, especially if we're going to be referring people to our clients, or maybe having another doula cover us with our own clients, that we trust the person and know the person that we are asking to help us in that regard. So it will be an application process, and the board of directors will be voting on each member for acceptance, and then you will receive a link to upload your information to become part of our membership directory. Put your information on there, and then people can contact you directly. You can list what services you offer, and as they search for those services, whether you're offering legacy work or life review work or vigil planning, or if you are a home funeral guide, or if you are a life celebrant. And if we don't have a specialty listed for you, you let us know, and we'll make sure we get that in there so that people can find you directly, and then they will contact you and hire you directly. So, and then we will have regular meetings, and our members will benefit from the support of our leadership team as well as each other. And hopefully, as we grow out of this pandemic into whatever normal life will look like after that, that we can start getting out in public again and doing some community events and gathering and networking, because that'll really be the fun part of it, that we can all come together and meet face to face and really build a relationship. But until such time, we will do the best that we can online, have some webinars and some meetings online just to keep everybody in touch and connected as we go along. So we would love to have you as a member, and again, if you have any questions, you can post them here, even if you're watching this video after the fact. So,
And we offer remote support too.
we offer remote support too.
There's end-of-life doulas. Yeah.
Yes, we do. So, do we have any questions before we finish up today, Gary?
I have to push the see more button. Let's see.
We have that many?
No, I didn't see any more.
Well, I have a comment here from Lisa Ann. As an ANELDA trained doula, I have not. This is beautiful. Jump in there, Vanessa, if you're.
No, I don't see any more questions. I
Have a
was just
question?
gonna offer for people who are looking for end-of-life doulas right now, we do offer remote support through, Facebook or Zoom or texting, or, I mean, there are
That's
a lot
a really
of
great point.
ways
So
that we
if
can offer support.
you're wondering how we're doing business as usual, it's not as usual. We can offer remote support as an end-of-life doula. We can do Zoom meetings, we can do FaceTime, we can do emails, we can do texting. So even if we can't come into the home at this point, we can still be of support to the dying person and their caregivers as well. So keep that in mind if there's a situation that you need some help with right now.
Yeah, and Lisa Ann says that she would like to form a collaborative in South Carolina. Our thoughts are with you. Reach out if there's anything that we can help you with, any information that we might be able to share.
And I would also mention that the National End-of-Life Doula Alliance, NEDA, N-E-D-A, has recently done a study. Actually, Vanessa, would you like to speak to that? Because you
Sure.
were on that committee.
Sure.
About forming collaboratives in community for doulas.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say before we wrap up that NEDA is a great resource if you are an end-of-life doula to look online. I was on a committee earlier this year trying to come up with a guide, which should be published pretty soon, to do exactly that. So if you want to start a collaborative in South Carolina, check the NEDA website because there are all kinds of routes to doing that. I explained how to form a 501, what are we? 501c6. So, which was quite a long process and very formal, as far as the IRS and all the legal things. There are much more casual, informal ways to start a collaborative and offer this work to your community. So yeah, I would check that website for guidance on that. But go to death cafes. That Marissa mentioned that. That's a good way to meet people who are also comfortable with death and dying. Although you don't have to be to go to one. I would encourage everybody to attend an online death cafe if that's possible for you. But that's a good way to meet people. Meetup groups, which is how I met Marissa. But yeah, if you are called to this work, do it. We need you. If you're in Colorado, join us.
And just in concluding, I just wanted to say,
Yes,
jump in
yes,
here. No, I'm not taking the chair. Sit down.
Okay.
Sarah, she wrote a lovely thank you for so much useful
Is that Sarah
information.
Hittman?
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate it. We look forward to
Thank
meeting
you,
all of you out
everybody.
there.
Thanks, everyone. Continue following us on Facebook for all the latest and greatest.